I just wanted to share really quick some of the benefits that I have found from gardening over this last year. I had no idea what I was doing, and we basically overhauled our entire front yard from scratch. And it was going to be too expensive to do it through like professional landscapers. And so we just decided that we could figure it out on our own and make a plan. So I went down this really deep dive on native gardening and water-wise landscaping because I wanted to figure out how to make a plan that was more sustainable, but that was also realistic, something that we could do on our own. And it just turned into this whole new passion that I developed. Like I just started getting really into it. That's kind of how I function, just because I'm a researcher by training in my day job. And so I just wanted to learn all I could about about gardening and about specifically how to do it more sustainably. And along the way, I discovered all these benefits that I like really didn't expect, but I just thought maybe I could share those and that it might be helpful for some people who are, I don't know, maybe thinking about getting into gardening and on the fence, or I don't know. So I'd say the first one is that it is the perfect antidote to basically all things AI and tech. And I just think, this like onslaught of new technologies that have come out in the last few years. I'm recording this at the end of 2025, and it just feels like the last couple of years have been an absolute whirlwind of, I don't know, just so much changing so fast. And there's some wonderful things about that, obviously. It's really great, some of the new capabilities, especially in the healthcare space. I work in healthcare research, and so that's obviously things that are always on my radar. And some of those things are wonderful for society, but there's obviously so many downsides too. In particular, I think just seeing how much AI can be leveraged to capture our attention and um, just get us to spend way too much of our lives online. That's the objective of a lot of these tools and technologies. And so I think the antidote to that is getting outside more. And how do we do that? And so gardening has become just this really great way. It's sort of like insurance for myself, because once we started these projects outside, I now had these things to attend to. Like I had projects, I had things I needed to maintain, tasks I needed to do outside. And so even on days when I probably otherwise would not have just gone and hung out outside for a few hours, having the garden became this insurance to make sure that I was getting myself out there. And so, and there's just something about gardening. It's like literally the most real world thing you can do, like touching the earth. And I don't mean that in like a woo woo way. I just mean literally like getting your hands dirty, touching soil and water and plants and bugs, and just getting more connected with all of those natural cycles and the rhythms of nature, of plants and animals. It just is so life giving, and it feels genuinely like the medicine we all could use more of right now in this time of life when more and more is happening online, and that the consequence of that is disconnection from other people. So, and that brings me to the second benefit, which I totally did not expect. But that is community and connection. So it's kind of, I've seen it as like a really powerful antidote to loneliness. I think it has the potential to be that, I guess. In my case, I think it's been more pronounced because the space that we started with was the front yard. And so I've spent a ton of time in the front yard over the last year when I otherwise wouldn't have. Like, I'm not sure what other thing would have made me be just standing out in front of my house for that much time. But because of that, I ended up just being on the, like near the sidewalk. And so people would be passing by and I would meet new people, and then they would see what I was working on and they would ask questions. And then a lot of them were interested in taking on kind of a similar project in their yards to remove their lawn. And, would just want to know, like, what kind of plants am I using? And where did you learn this? And where did you find that? And it just is sort of becomes the basis of having these great conversations with people. And then I've gotten to know a lot of them. We've formed a gardening group in our neighborhood, like a WhatsApp group, and we text each other when we have questions or just like fun things to share. One of my neighbors found a baby bird who laid eggs. And so we were all like getting updates on the progress and the status of the little baby birds. And I don't know, just really small things like that. It might sound silly, but it is incredibly life-giving, and just feeling that connection with other people and getting to know them on the basis of, like, it sort of starts from talking about your yard maybe or a plant, but then you get to know them better because of that. And I think just nowadays it seems like a lot of people have a hard time meeting other people in the real world, because so much of our lives, our jobs, our entertainment, our social connection, a lot of times happens online. And so I think we all could use probably more reasons and excuses and opportunities, I guess, to meet people in the real world. So that's another really big one, I think, is, and loneliness is such a, unfortunately, such a major problem in society, and it's like only getting worse. And it's, you know, I mean, they say that loneliness is like worse than smoking if you had to calculate like an absolute um, how negative its impacts are on your health. And so anything that can help you connect with other people is wonderful. And I think this is like a great way to do that. And then the last one is just physical health, physical and mental health. But I think I just I didn't really consider how beneficial it would be gardening, but because it's something that just gets you outside more, getting exposed to more sunlight, and both in the early morning, I get up early a lot to do gardening just because I have young kids. And so I have to take whatever opportunities I can get. And so getting up early and getting that early morning sunlight exposure is so good. And then also the late afternoon sunlight, you know, there's tons of research that demonstrates that's really beneficial for your circadian rhythm. In a lot of different ways, direct and indirect, more time in nature is so beneficial for us. And so I don't know, I guess I started this huge project of our front yard and trying to learn all these things. At first it was just like a landscaping task, and then at the end it ended up becoming something that is beneficial for my health. It's connected me and helped me meet a bunch of new neighbors, and it also feels like such a healthy alternative to just being inside spending more time on my phone. So yeah, I don't know. These are just three benefits that I think are massive. Like, these are really influential things that could really change a person's life, from something as small as just starting to work in your garden. And it could be even a really small patch. Sorry, it's so windy. It could be even like a 2x2 patch on your sidewalk in front of your house. Like that little patch of grass or whatever that usually is kind of ignored. You could just put a little something there and just work on it for a while, and people will notice, and people will pass by and they'll appreciate it, and then they'll talk to you about it, and then you'll get to chatting with them. And I don't know, it just does a lot of good for your local ecosystem and for you and for your neighbors. And so if you've been thinking about gardening, then take this as an encouragement to do that. And if you're interested in following along, sorry, it's so windy. If you're interested in following along my journey, as I'm just continuing to try to learn as much as I can about water-wise and sustainable landscaping, then follow along, because I plan to stick with this for the long term.